Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of History Quest. So this month we're doing something a little bit different. Instead of me reading you a boring old story in the studio, we are out in Winsted, Minnesota, where we have the Vietnam War Memorial, the Wall That Heals, which is a smaller replica that travels around of the Vietnam War Memorial. So why don't we move along and check out the wall. Here we are with Tom Oleg from Winsted, and he was instrumental in getting the Wall That Heals to Winsted. Tom, could you tell us a little bit about bringing the wall here?
Sure. About 4 years ago, we had the 9/11 Memorial come to Winsted. Very well received. And during COVID, like everyone, I was watching TV and saw a little story about the wall, and I thought that would be very cool to bring to the area. And so about 2 years ago, we contacted the Wall That Heals Foundation and talked to them over the years. A year ago, we gave them 3 weeks that would work with us or for us, and we were sensitive to other festivals in the communities around us. And they called us and said, "You're on the list, and we're coming this last week in July." And so then the real work started. We formed a committee, or we had a committee formed of individuals. A lot of them worked, volunteer for Winstock, so they knew what they were doing. And we just worked hard and raised money and visited all the legions in the area and talked to them. And we were able to raise enough money to bring the wall here. And we also needed to gather about 120 volunteers to work the different shifts, and we were able to do that. And a company called Proform set up the wall for us, and typically it's 6 to 8 hours to set the wall up, and they had it up in 4.
Oh, wow.
And they did an amazing job. So I think of all the things our group has done over the years, bringing the Wall That Heals to this area is probably one of the more meaningful. I was talking with a gentleman this morning who served in Vietnam, and he told me that he'd never get to Washington to see the real wall, but he wanted to come here and get an etching of his friend's name, which he was able to do. So it's very meaningful to a lot of people, and if it helps one veteran, then it was worth the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we are with Jeff Sterner of Winsted, and he too is a veteran. And he's played a part in getting this Vietnam Wall Memorial replica here to Winsted also. Jeff, could you tell us a little bit about the wall?
Well, basically this is a 3/4 scale replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall in Washington. The people that do this wall are the same people that raised the funds, and they also built the wall in Washington. It was all done with private dollars. No tax dollars were spent on that. The only thing we got from the government was the land to put it on. They started traveling wall because a lot of people can't get out to the real wall. But this one is the largest traveling wall by far. It's the only one put out by that group, and it's to my knowledge, it's the only one that deals strictly with Vietnam. They're very fussy about that. They've been super people, super helpful. We sat on several Zoom meetings, and they would go through every aspect of what's going to happen. So far, and it's early, we've had no surprises. It's pretty much exactly what they say, how everything was going to happen. And so it's been fantastic. I mean, raising the money for it was easy. You just go to the veterans groups. We had some businesses and individuals raise money also, but the veterans group just really came to bat. So that was the easiest part, raising the money.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for bringing this to Winsted. Here we are with Bryce Benson, and he is staff with the Wall That Heals. And Bryce, I was wondering if you could tell our viewers a little bit about the wall.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. My name is Bryce Benson. I'm with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. We are the founders of the memorial in Washington, D.C., and this is the Wall That Heals. We are a 3/4 scale replica of the memorial in D.C., and we also have a education center that fits all in the back of a semi-truck, and we travel from town to town throughout the United States. This year alone, we're doing 29 stops across the nation. In previous years, we've done up to 40. It is just a true honor to come to be a part of a community for a week, hosting tours. We're open 24/7 from yesterday about 2 o'clock till Sunday at 2 o'clock.
Bryce, can you tell us a little bit about this plaque that's here?
This is our in memory plaque. This is a program that the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund started in the late 90s, and in 2004 we dedicated this plaque in Washington, D.C. This is a full-scale replica of what you would see if you came to the memorial site in D.C. The in memory program recognizes those veterans, almost 2.7 million, who came home from Vietnam and oftentimes brought a lot of Vietnam with them. And because of that, they left us sooner than they would have otherwise. So the in memory program allows family members to induct their loved ones into their honor roll. And every Saturday before Father's Day, we host a ceremony in Washington, D.C., where families can come up to the podium right above the memorial in D.C. and say some words about their loved one and officially recognize them. Yesterday, I had a gentleman come here, and he was looking for two of his buddies that were on the memorial. They had come home and soon passed. And so for the rightful place, because of that, their names are not listed on the memorial, but they are eligible to be inducted into our in memory program. He had a flag, something that was very dear to him. He's been holding on to it for a long time, and he wanted to give it to his buddies. And so he and I spent a couple of moments honorably folding his Army flag, and then we dedicated it right here last night. The items that are presented here at the memorial will remain in the community. And so after we leave, these will be turned over to the site host and kept here within the community.
If you go behind us, we have an education center. I think our viewers would love it if we could go over there and just take a quick look.
Yeah.
So here we have Hometown Heroes. What can you tell us about Hometown Heroes?
Yeah, Brian. Our Hometown Heroes panel lists the heroes from McLeod County and the surrounding counties that touch it. These are the men that went to Vietnam and paid the ultimate sacrifice for their service. So these are the names, and we see the faces of those listed on the wall. When you visit the memorial site, you're just going to see the names. Through our efforts, we want to put a face behind every name. Of the over 1,000 men who from Minnesota who served and died in Vietnam, we have all of their pictures. Okay, and so that allows us to go a step deeper. Okay, to get more connection with the service members, to show that they're more than just a name. Okay, they are members of their community. They are sons, brothers, fathers, uncles, nephews, and so it's very touching. Visitors can visit our website, and they can search and find their hometown heroes, and they may know them, and they can write a little post about them, submit additional pictures for review, just to help us honor and preserve the legacy of our Vietnam veterans.
So what do we have here? It looks like we've got maybe some artifacts, some memorabilia.
Yeah, so within our educational center, we have 3 displays of artifacts. These are among the over 400,000 items that have been left at our memorial site. And so within each panel, we like to talk about the experience. This one is specific to the experience within Vietnam. So on our left-hand side, we'll see a typical uniform with the jungle print camo, the bug juice, the ace of spades, the Zippo lighters. These were common military items used in uniforms of the Vietnam era and that were left at the memorial site. You know, right here in the middle, we have a Thanksgiving Day card and cans of 2 rations and a P-38 can opener. Our veterans identify with these objects. Okay, it serves as a touchstone to kind of bring them back and remember, you know, that experience.
Okay, Bryce, so on this side we have other items and other things to affect in the Education Center. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so on the rear section of the trailer, these again are more items, you know, of the 400,000 that have been left at the memorial. We start to look at the impacts on the home front. And some of these items get very deeply personal of what it was like. One of the items was a care package sent to Charles Stewart by his family. Charles Stewart lost his life, and the package was unceremoniously returned to the family with just KIA and the date that he died. Fortunately, the family had already laid him to rest, but just receiving that package, the family was in such a state of grief, they put it in the back of a closet where it stayed there for decades. And when a neighbor was coming up to Washington, D.C., they gave it to him and said, "Will you please deliver this to Charles?" And so Gary B. wrote a quick note on the package and left it at the memorial site. These items really show the personal loss that our family members endured, the wives of our POW and MIAs, and just that impact. As we move forward on the trailer, we start to look at the lasting impact of our Vietnam veterans and how they impacted the next generations of those going into service. One of the items was left was a pair of boots. A Marine Corps lieutenant, after doing 2 tours in Iraq, brought his boots to the memorial and left a note saying, "I wanted to give these to you. I felt you deserve them more than the garbage man. Truth of the matter is, if you didn't come home to jeers and insults, I wouldn't have come home to handshakes, hugs, and thanks." So we see this recognition from today's veterans and service members of the lasting impact of how the Vietnam generation really came to support me, right, in my service going forward. It just kind of serves again as that touchstone of that this memorial just doesn't recognize a point in time, but it is a lasting impact for generations to come.
So I've been hearing a lot about the Gold Star bike, and tell us a little bit about the Gold Star bike.
So the Gold Star bike is our largest item that we have on exhibit, and it does draw a lot of attention, and it serves as a very special touchstone within our education center and with the Walnut Hills. So going back into our Vietnam era, 2 buddies, Robert Cupp and Steve Davenport, they were the best of friends, and they joined the Army under the Buddies program. They wanted to go off and fight communism, and so when they got through boot camp, Steve Davenport went to Germany, Robert Cupp went to Vietnam. Robert Cupp didn't come home. Steve Davenport did. As we were raising funds to build the memorial in 1982, Steve Davenport was now a long-haul trucker, and he was going from town to town, talking about the memorial, raising funds, and meeting the Gold Star mothers. Okay, the mothers of those who had lost their sons in Vietnam, and he dedicated that he would someday earn enough money to buy a Softail Harley and dedicate it as the Gold Star bike. And so what you'll see behind me is this Softail Harley, and on it it has Robert's Cup as if it was etched from the memorial in D.C. and about 75 names of the sons of the Gold Star mothers that he met along the way. And so when Steve got a little older, he gave the bike to Robert's mother. And so, so his mother then called us and said, I don't know what Steve was thinking. If he's too old to ride it, I certainly can't do it. Could I donate it to you, and could you take it on the road? So we travel, throughout America talking about, the Gold Star mothers, to further show that, this memorial is more than the 58,281 names. There are mothers and fathers behind each and every one of those.
All right, here we are with Mr. Bruce Peters, and he is a Vietnam veteran who's here today in Winsted to check out the wall that heals. Bruce, I was wondering if you could share a little bit of your story with our viewers.
Okay, I went into the military in 1968 and was sent to Vietnam. I landed there January 3rd at the very beginning of 1969. Was assigned to 4th of the 39th Infantry, which was a battalion in the 9th Infantry Division, which was down in the Mekong Delta. We were on the south end of the country, as opposed to many of the Marines, for instance, were up in the north end. There was the Central Highlands. We ended up down in the mud, in the Mekong Delta. It's similar to Florida. We were in the Everglades. And I was an infantryman. I also carried the two-way radio that company commander would use to maintain contact with our battalion commander. The unit I was in was a reconnaissance unit, D Company. They used us to drop into an area, do a little sweep among the villages or through the jungle or whatever to see if we couldn't stir up an enemy, come in contact with him, and then we would call in support. Sometimes, most of the time, we didn't run into anything, so the helicopter would pick us up, and 7-8 times a day we'd go up and down with the helicopters. So I spent a lot of time in the air and on the ground. 2012, I guess it was, we bought this motorcycle, and I have a friend of mine who's an artist. She lives down in southeast Iowa. Her name is Sue Hopper, and I knew that she did a lot of custom paint jobs. Well, it was in the fall of the year that I bought the bike. I loved that dark blue color, and that was one of the main reasons I bought the bike. It's a Victory Vision. They don't make Victories anymore, but anyway, during that winter I did a lot of thinking about what I wanted Sue to do on the bike, and one of my dreams was to ride to all the memorials. So as many of the Vietnam memorials as I could. And whenever I go by the wall or a memorial when I'm close by, I always stop in. So the bike has been to all the memorials that are portrayed on the bike. Of course, people think of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. as being the wall, and that is what the memorial is. It's also made up of two other parts. One is the three soldiers, which is on the right side of the motorcycle, portrays infantry, three infantry of cross-section of the members of the United States. One of the things I learned while I was doing some research is that only one of them has his dog tags on.
Yeah.
The other two do not have their dog tags, which would indicate that he is escorting his brothers to the wall. This memorial in D.C. is about half the distance from here to the portable wall, the wall that heals. And they're on a little rise and they're looking down at the wall. So they're on their way. He's going to take them to his buddies in the wall. They've been killed. On the left side of the fairing is the Women's Memorial, or sometimes called the Nurses Memorial. That has a strong Minnesota connection. Diane Carlson Evans was one of the nurses over in Vietnam, and when she came back, she was instrumental in getting that memorial built for the women, and it was past due time to have that done. I was out in Washington, D.C. just a week after it was dedicated, so I didn't get in on the dedication, but I want to make those three. The wall is on the left saddlebag in the back. That's all part of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. At the wall, Sue put me standing at the wall with my hand on the 4 guys' names I knew personally, and I was with them when they were killed. So I always go to the traveling wall, and whenever I'm in DC, I go to pay my respects to my guys. I have these 4 guys. There were others in our unit that were killed, but I didn't know them personally. Something interesting that Sue did was she shaded the people into the wall. They're looking back out at me. Those are my 4 guys. They're forever young. And it's a copy, a blatant copy of the more famous painting by the name of Reflections. And but I thought it was a great idea to shadow the guys back into the wall looking back out at me. On the left front, I have on the wind deflector, the Declaration of Independence. This is the kind of work that we did, the kind of helicopter we flew in small units. On the top, one of our captains, when he returned, one of his healing things that he'd got into was painting. And he painted us going across a rice paddy. This is kind of typical of the landscape of the Mekong Delta. A lot of rice. They were the rice bowl of Asia. I have a couple of Bible verses that I put on there because they're meaningful to me, and that they're a promise from Jesus that someday there won't be wars. No more suffering and wars. We also have another painting down here that's Uncle Sam kneeling at the cross, and it's referring to 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people seek me and turn from evil, then I will forgive them and heal their land. And I think that's important for America to take into consideration right now. This is a helicopter medevac coming in to pick up our wounded. Sue put a little cross in the sky. I thought that was neat. As you can see, the Huey helicopter played such a huge part of the Vietnam experience, and they're very close to me because I spent so much time in them. And to this day, when there's a blade pop of a Huey off in the distance, even though I have to wear hearing aids to hear my wife, I'll pick that blade pop up if I'm outside and anywhere where I can pick that up. This would be a memorial service that we did in country to honor my 4 guys. The main battle was on March 13th, 1969. There was one other good friend of mine, and the first one that was killed was on January 28th of 69. And he and I were both radio operators, and for some strange reason we decided to switch places that next morning. And I really don't remember why we did that, but he ended up getting killed. So one of the things that you do have, whether it's realistic or not, is survivor guilt. And that led a little bit to my survivor guilt, wondering why it was him and not me. Up on the gas tank, there's another memorial that is out in Angel Fire in New Mexico. And again, this motorcycle has been to all these memorials. So it's been around, it's got some miles on it. It's 2010, and it's getting up there in mileage. But anyway, this is pretty neat, I thought, since I had a background in the Postal Service when I came back, that this is a man writing a letter home. Letters home meant a lot. Letters from home and care packages meant so much. And he's writing a letter, but he doesn't know what to say. And I can remember feeling that same thing when I would try to write a letter to my wife, my parents. Dear Mom and Dad, now what? He can't tell them what he's seeing. He can't tell them what he's doing. You know, he's in a distant land. And it was kind of a predicament. So many of our letters reflected that. I get a kick out of digging out some of my letters that I wrote to my wife, and they were pretty brief sometimes. But anyway, that's the, and then I do have the feathers painted on the front and back. That's to honor the American Indian warriors that we fought with. The American Indian fought in every one of our battles since the Indian Wars. They fought in every one of our wars, World War I, World War II, and they need all the honor and respect too as veterans.
Well, it's a great story. thank you very much for the interview, and I think I speak for all of our viewers when I say thank you for your service.
You're worth it.
Thanks everybody for watching another episode of History Quest. That's going to conclude this month's episode. If you ever get a chance to come check one of these Wall That Heal traveling exhibits out, definitely do it. It's full of history. On that note, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next month. Bye everybody.